how it's possible that anyone is still thinking the Ukraine war and all of the propaganda that we're being fed is real. We've just got Orlando Bloom rocking up to talk to Zelensky. Like, Ukraine or Kyiv has become a tourist destination, a celebrity hotspot. Like one of those restaurants where the Daily Mail organised to have a pap so that people can be filmed walking to the restaurant. Kyiv has become a celebrity hotspot. And I guess it makes sense when you think about it. Orlando Bloom is an actor and Zelensky, quite clearly, is an actor. And it doesn't just stop there, does it? We have Bear Grylls, the chief scout, the guy who's, ex-military, doing some clip of himself travelling to Kyiv to be with Zelensky and making out like it was a dramatic episode, and there was moments where they had to stop the filming, and despite everything that he's gone through, survivor, endurance, drinking his own wee, this was much more difficult, much more serious, much more dramatic. And that was foisted upon the English people because it was a qualifier for the Euros between Ukraine and the UK. Imagine that. And there was Bear Grylls at the football promoting his meeting with Zelensky in the middle of the football to try and spread the propaganda to the football viewing masses. Like, it just came from nowhere. And then today, Orlando Bloom. What on earth? How on earth is anyone still imagining in any way that the so-called Ukraine war is a real thing as opposed to being a contrivance to animate the military-industrial complex or to benefit potentially America politically? How is anyone imagining this had anything to do with ordinary people of Ukraine ever? And I think, much of it is the same as with COVID or the state injectable or lockdown. I think a lot of it is because for people that were sucked in, so if you were someone that was putting up the Ukraine flag in your garden, taking down the NHS rainbow and swapping it for a blue and yellow flag, or maybe you were someone that donated to Ukraine, or maybe you even got so sucked in you needed to take in a Ukrainian refugee as some sort of, household pet almost. Maybe at the point where you start to go, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem right that Bear Grylls is there. It doesn't seem right that Orlando Bloom's there. It doesn't seem right that another politician is there every day of the week. It doesn't seem right that Zelensky is popping up at, music awards. It feels a bit off. It's almost like you don't want to admit that because you would have to admit that you were sucked in the front end, and that feels embarrassing or difficult or awkward. Much like COVID or the state injectable gets to a point where you almost need to want to continue to believe, because if you don't, the reality is too awful, too awkward. So it's much easier to just stick with the contrivance. But it really is now at the point where it's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for anybody who still believes in the Ukraine stuff. And almost for all of us, it's horrible to think about that we're being fed this much propaganda in order for the rich and powerful to pursue their political ends and to gain more power. And that is frightening in and of itself.